Hello, world. Today is Wednesday, July 1st, 2026. And this is a Science Show. I'm Theodore Parker, coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, East Coast of the United States. Middle of the week. Weekend comes. We'll be on July 4th weekend, with 250 years of America being celebrated. If you notice, I don't have on my usual black tee, but I will get to that shortly. As far as the weather is concerned, the heat warning, extreme heat warning, that has been issued for this area and is also being experienced by many other states across the United States, has been extended to Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. For today, the high will be 95. This week, 95 has been up by 10 degrees with the heat index pushing it into the triple digits. So today's weather, sunny, highs in the mid-90s and lows in the low 70s. Poor weather for running, poor weather for cycling, and poor weather for gardening. Currently, the AQI is moderate at 68. The UV index is low right now. It feels muggy, and the wind is calm at 2 miles per hour. Today's sunrise was at 6:18 a.m. in this area, and sunset will be at 9:04 p.m. Currently, the time EDT is 7:48 a.m. Now that we're into the month of July, seems just like that, occurring in the middle of the week, July 1, 2026. I was thinking about the month of June, and particularly June 21st, which was Father's Day on a Sunday, and also was the first day of summer for 2026. And something occurred to me that I don't think I've thought about before. You know, Father's Day, I'm a father, my sons are fathers, and took me back to the man of the house when I was growing up. And I was just thinking, I'm from Chester, Pennsylvania, and at that time, one of the biggest things there was the shipyard. So he worked at the shipyard as a welder. And then when I got to thinking about it, I said, yeah, and he worked in the barbershop too, cutting hair, next to his brother. And then I thought about it a little bit more, and I remember one weekend I was coming past the ABC store, and I looked in the window, big glass window, and there he was in the ABC store behind the counter. So I was just amazed how that popped into my mind. In regards to the t-shirt, okay, earlier this week, I was channel surfing. I'm on summer break right now, so I have time to do things like that. And I landed on the Disney Channel, and they were going through Americana history and, you know, various things, you know, from earlier years, toys for kids like the Slinkies and Play-Doh, and how all these things became a part of the American experience. And one of the things that was highlighted was Route 66, which is a highway that extends from Los Angeles west all the way to the East Coast, ending in Chicago, Illinois. So the story kind of unfolded that at the time that Route 66 was being used extensively, businesses and communities cropped up along the highway. It was excuse me, one of the great American experiences. When President Eisenhower was in office, his administration began what is referred to as the superhighways. So one man in particular, which is what we use today, presently, one man in particular, as Route 66 began to fade, kept approaching the government and, approaching the government about making Route 66 historic. And to quote him, he said, "We just kept going and kept going. We did not give up." So today, Route 66 is considered to be an historic highway. So a couple of years ago, I'm aware of Route 66. At one time, there was even a TV program by that same name, Route 66. So a few years ago, I saw this t-shirt. I'll let you see it. Route 66. And it, struck me, so I bought it. This happens to be an extra large. You can see how it fits. But it was during this time of the year, July 4th celebration. So that's the story of that. But Disney covered a couple of things with that program. I think it went for a couple of hours, like Slinky toys, Play-Doh. There used to be this thing that children had that was a plastic gun that would shoot out strings of putty and would get all over you, all over your clothes and your hair and everything, different colors, but you could just pull it off. And one of the things they mentioned about that particular thing was that it came out of medical research for a plaster that could be used in setting casts for broken bones like arms and legs and things of that nature at the time. And the spin-off from that plaster was that string putty. So it went on to cover things like Jacques Cousteau and bring us right on up to what Disney is doing now with Avatar, the latest release being Fire and Ash. So it's an interesting way to spend the time. But Route 66, yes, historic highway in a time when America was still smiling and waving at each other. But currently, with the superhighways, if you ever lost, as I said, we're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. A rule of thumb is, in this country, all odd numbers for highways run north to south. And if it's an even number, then it runs east to west. So that might be something you might have to make use of sometime. In the news, Donald Trump. And this is going somewhere, folks, so it's not just like I'm pulling his name up just to talk bad about him. And this is from the Google feed. And it is a video clip, so I won't be able to show it to you, but I will let you listen to it. And it says, Supreme Court rejects Trump's push to toss out $5 million award to E. Jean Carroll for sexual abuse and defamation. So let me get this up here, get past the commercial.
President Donald Trump's request to throw out a $5 million jury verdict finding him liable for sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll and later defaming her. The legal battle stems from a 1996 encounter. Carroll, a longtime advice columnist, testified that Trump trapped her in a New York City dressing room, turning a friendly encounter into a violent assault. Trump fiercely denied the attack in 2022, slamming the allegation as a total hoax. But that defensive move backfired when the jury found him liable for defamation. Trump's lawyers had argued that allegations leading to the $5 million verdict were propped up by highly inflammatory evidentiary rulings, including those that allowed the testimony of two other women who accused Trump of sexual abuse decades ago. Trump has denied all three women's allegations. His attorneys also argued that the judge broke federal evidence rules in the case and framed it as a distraction from Trump's unique duties as president, though the verdict came before his return to the White House. Carroll's lawyers had urged the justices to pass on the case, saying the women's testimonies were relevant because the allegations were similar, and that the judge's decisions were in line with others around the country. The Supreme Court decision to not take up the case comes as the High Court hands down some of the biggest decisions of the term, many of which directly impact Trump's agenda.
Well, I guess that speaks for itself. And on that same note, there is something going on currently in the nation's capital. There's an organization that is protesting the Trump administration, and they are currently doing that with posters and other signs. So there was an article entitled "Protected First Amendment Speech. Judge rules Trump raped little girls. Signs are not obscene," and bars government threatening to pull permits over 8647 flags. Okay, let me check this first. And I'm bringing this to your attention because it has to do with something else that I wanted to bring to your attention. Maybe. I look at so much stuff. Let me just pull it up, take my time here. Under saved. And the article, the posters were saying that the allegations of him raping little girls and signs being obscene and represented by the DOJ, they could continue to handle those or have those displayed because it did not have anything to do with, it was a part of the First Amendment right to free speech. Okay. Oh, okay, here we go. Trying to talk and look at the same time, folks. I do apologize. This is from 14 hours ago from Politics. And like I said, the judge ruled that the protest and the organizations behind it could continue, irregardless of what the signs displayed. And the judge that did the initial ruling in the lower court was a judge appointed by President Obama, was an Obama-appointed judge. So I just wanted to get that out there, so in case your attention span wanders or you get distracted, you'll still have the point of it. The Trump administration's efforts to pull permits from protesters displaying 8647, I still don't know what that stands for, flags and signs on National Park Service property near the National Mall hit a judicial wall on Tuesday. The government order such flags be taken down in the aftermath of the alleged assassination attempt against President Donald Trump at the White House Correspondents Association dinner in late May. In response to National Park Service officers' commands, a volunteer with the Accountability Now USA plaintiffs complied. and was told that replacing the flag would result in a violation of the group's permit. While the litigation had been filed the month before, the officer's threat prompted an amended complaint later that very same day. Early this month, U.S. District Judge Randolph Moss, a Barack Obama appointee sitting in Washington, D.C., issued a temporary restraining order in the plaintiff's favor, reasoning that it was difficult to fathom how the government could have concluded that a reasonable observer would view the flag as a true threat. In the middle of the month, Moss doubled down on his earlier findings, extending the original restraining order and enlarging it to cover other flags and signs that display versions of the 8647 message. Now, for the third time, the judge has sided with the protesters, ruling on a motion for summary judgment and permanently enjoining the government from threatening their permits over the flying of the flags in question or any other signage with substantially similar messages. Freedom of speech is a bedrock constitutional right, the 51-page memorandum opinion begins, citing a 2023 ruling that upheld a gag order on Trump himself in a since shelved criminal case. Political speech in particular is the lifeblood of American democracy. In a self-aware aside, the court juxtaposes the length of the present ruling with the relative difficulty of the constitutional analysis. Although the court's opinion is lengthy, speaking about the 51 pages, that does not mean that this is a hard case. The opinion goes on. It is not. Plaintiff's signs and flag fall well within the heartland of protected First Amendment speech, and defendants offer no plausible basis for suppressing plaintiff's core political speech. If hard cases make bad law, one can only hope that easy cases make good law. The judge rejected the Trump administration's argument that 8647 is an incitement to violence unprotected by the First Amendment. Rather, the court found that the numerical slogan was a call to impeach and remove President Trump from office. The record contains no evidence that a reasonable observer would have viewed the flag as an incitement to imminent violence or that plaintiff intended to incite political violence. The opinion continues. National reporting that certain government officials view the phrase 8647 as a threat to the president does not make it so, and certainly does not turn plaintiff's use of that phrase into something that it is not. Since December 2025, the plaintiff group has held a 24/7 demonstration in the nation's capital against the second Trump presidency. Since the Jeffrey Epstein scandal engulfed the administration, some of those signs have included phrases like, "Trump raped little girls," and "Kids, if your parents are MAGA, they love child rapists." Over the course of the lawsuit, the DOJ would eventually complain that the sexual misconduct signs are obscene, then later amend its briefs to argue they were obscene as to minors. In the opinion, Moss determined there were no such thing. Their argument borders on the absurd, the opinion continues. Accusations of rape, and in particular rape of a child, are undoubtedly disturbing, but they do not pique a shameful or morbid interest in that repugnant and criminal act. However, moreover, plaintiff's signs unequivocally condemn child rapists or those who rape little girls. They do not, by any stretch of the imagination, deal with sex in a manner appealing to minors, shameful interest in child rape, or pedophilia. The court later opines on the public interest at stake. These displays implicate the most sacred rights: plaintiff's First Amendment right to engage in core political speech in a public forum, and even a brief interference with that right comes at a grave price to plaintiff, in particular in the public interest more broadly. The opinion continues. A representative for the plaintiff welcomed the court's ruling in a press release issued by the ACLU of Washington, D.C. We at Accountability Now are pleased that the court has upheld our First Amendment right to display signs addressing the president's alleged sex crimes, as well as our peaceful 8647 flags and artwork at our 24/7 demonstration. Organizer Anita Carey said, "We will continue to exercise our constitutional right to lawfully and peacefully call for the president's impeachment, conviction, and removal from office. As the nation celebrates 250 years of independence, this ruling underscores the enduring importance of public dissent in our democracy." The article concludes. So, it just so happened, as I said, when the stars aligned, the first thing I mentioned about E. Jean Carroll, and then this came up, and then D.L. Hughley again, in comments that he was making about Trump, mentioned that him being a convicted felon, 34 counts, convicted of 34 charges and convicted, as a felon, which I had mentioned, myself before previously, wondering how he even was selected to be president and to be in the White House in the first place, since all this happened prior to him, putting his name on a piece of paper. So, but he made, D.L. Hughley, made a point that it kind of like slipped right past me. He said that Trump, as a felon, does not have the right to vote. And I was like, So here he is meddling in all the procedures involved with voting, and he can't vote himself. So that's my latest news information on President Trump. Because usually in politics, the first thing they tell you, but don't forget to vote for yourself. And here he is as a felon, can't even vote. Moving on a different note, I ran into an article that kind of surprised me pleasantly. It was called 24 Celebrity BFFs. And the matchings, BFFs. So just a few of the names that stood out: Mary J. Blige with Taraji P. Henson, Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart. You're probably familiar with that from the Martha Stewart show. Beyonce and Kelly Rowland, BFFs after Destiny's Child. Oprah and Gayle King is another one that's familiar to the public. And the one, one that took me by surprise, I say pleasantly, Beyonce and Michelle Obama. So if any of those, celebrity BFFs strike your interest, access the article. Big Three Basketball is back. There's some talk that Big Three Basketball may become an IPO, which means you will be able to buy shares. And on that note, Ice Cube was the one that presented, speaking of the BET Awards, Ice Cube presented Lauryn Hill with her Living Legend Icon of the Year award. And Janet Jackson gave Tatiana Taylor her Icon of the Year award. And that was kind of a surprise, since I read in the media that Janet currently resides in London, England. So I guess they got it all worked out. Now that the NBA draft is taken care of, we're on to the NBA trades. And there's a lot of talk circulating in the media as to who will go where and when. So I will just let this play out, and we'll see where the conversations end up. Earlier this week, I had mentioned about the flooding here in Kentucky, and I had mentioned about how high the water had risen and what was going on with that. I said that the water was up to the top of the stop sign, but actually you have the pole, stop sign sits on the pole. The water come up to maybe a foot less than the bottom of the actual stop sign itself. And I mentioned that the governor had declared an emergency due to those conditions, and things were still kind of being sorted out in that regard. But there is an article regarding that, and which is why I kind of bid my time around those set of circumstances. And this is from WSVA 12, dated June 27th, 2026. So here we go. Multiple people were confirmed dead after flooding in central Kentucky. Madison County Coroner Jimmy Cornelson confirmed 3 flooding-related deaths in Madison County. 2 of the deaths were on University Drive in Richmond. 1 death was on Tate's Creek Road in Richmond. But we have a Tate's Creek Road here in Lexington as well. The dead were 2 adult men and 1 adult woman. Governor Beshear reported a flood-related death in Jackson County. Jackson County Judge Executive Paul Hayes told WKYT that a deadly vehicle accident happened on Kentucky 290 about 4 miles away from McKee, but he would not confirm if the death was flood-related. So there are pictures, maybe half a dozen pictures or more related to the conditions that were being experienced at the time. But I will say this, that with the governor issuing that emergency, crews are now working on accommodations for those that had to be displaced due to property damage. Also, drinking water, things of this nature, and also electrolytes and supplies for those ones who are working to in the aftermath of these flood conditions. So all that has been posted on Broadcast TV with the website included. During this month also, Florida experienced an earthquake. And according to the seismograph readings, tremors reached all the way here to Kentucky. One person I know in Florida posted several pictures of glass figurines. So I took that as a signal that everything is okay here. So that's good. One more thing, and this is coming from the Google streaming service. The past little while, there's been several articles relating to Mackenzie Scott's philanthropic work, and I first kind of picked up on her in regards to donations that she has made to HBCUs, historically black communities and universities, in particular Howard. She is the ex-wife of Jeff Bezos, And something kind of surprised me again in one of the articles that I was reading about her work. In the settlement between her and Jeff Bezos, she was awarded 4% of Amazon stock. And I'm surprised at how far 4% of a stock can go, but she co-founded Amazon with Jeff Bezos, so that probably is significant. So this particular article is dated June 30th, yesterday, 2026. Katie Miller criticizes Jeff Bezos' ex-wife Mackenzie Scott's $26 billion philanthropy, claims donations largely support progressive organizations. And then the media also has posted some comments by by Elon Musk as well. So this article kind of covers all of that. So let me dig into it right quick. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos' former wife Mackenzie Scott has come under fresh criticism after podcaster and former advisor to the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, Katie Miller, questioned the billionaire philanthropist's charitable donations. Miller argued that much of Scott's giving has supported organizations aligned with progressive causes. In a post shared on X, Miller claimed that Scott has donated about $26 billion, almost entirely to progressive groups that seek to dismantle the very way of life that built her fortune. She listed several organizations and causes that she said have received funding, including Planned Parenthood, the Trevor Project, racial justice initiatives, gender equity programs, climate-related organizations, and immigration groups. The comments have renewed political debate around Scott's philanthropy, which has attracted both praise and criticism over the past few years. Elon Musk had criticized Scott earlier. Miller's remarks come shortly after Tesla and SpaceX CEO Elon Musk has commented on Scott's charitable work. Musk recently responded sadly yes to a post alleging that the billionaire was using her wealth to make the world a worse place. Okay, now that we've set the format for what's going on, I'll just jump to what Mackenzie Scott has done with this $26 billion. And here's the part that I said was new to me. Scott has emerged as one of the world's largest philanthropists since receiving a 4% stake in Amazon as part of her 2019 divorce settlement with Jeff Bezos. Through her philanthropic initiative, Yield Giving, she has donated more than $26 billion to thousands of nonprofit organizations since 2020. Her contributions span education, healthcare, affordable housing, community development, climate initiatives, and racial equity projects. Earlier this year, Scott donated $70 million to Meals on Wheels America to support meal delivery and care services for seniors and homebound individuals across the United States. She has also provided $7 million to Red Lake Nation College and $42 million to Elizabeth City State University, taking her total support for historically Black colleges and universities beyond $1 billion. Other recipients include Howard University, Spelman College, Habitat for Humanity, and Girl Scouts of the USA. According to the latest America's Top 25 Philanthropists ranking, Scott has donated an estimated $26.4 billion during her lifetime, placing her third behind Warren Buffett, who I mentioned in an earlier broadcast, and Bill and Melinda Gates. Her approach of providing unrestricted grants has been widely recognized, even as the organizations she supports continue to generate political debate. So, if she's doing good things, I don't have a problem with that. Okay, kind of a PSA here. 4th being over the weekend, July 4th celebrations being over. When it comes to fireworks, at least in this area, and it may behoove you to pay attention where you are, the caution is regarding fireworks. If it goes up or blows up, it's a no. Sparklers only. Sparklers only. So I would check in my area before I spend a whole lot of money on things that may either get you in trouble legally or you might just have to leave them there unused. As far as sports is concerned, I had one more thing I wanted to add, and this is regarding boxing. And Abdullah Mason versus Albert Bell, and it's coming up this weekend, Saturday. Days TV, DAZN, and TNT. And boxing's youngest world champion, 22-year-old Abdullah Mason, 20-0 with 17 KOs, will defend his WBO lightweight title against late replacement Albert Bell at 28-9 with 9 KOs in front of his hometown crowd at the Woolston Center in Cleveland on the 250th anniversary of American Independence Day on Saturday, July 4th, as part of DAZN and TNT Sports' inaugural The Fight event. The event will be broadcast co-exclusively in U.S. on DAZN and TNT and on DAZN worldwide. And I just wanted to throw that in because Ohio is part of this tri-state area, Kentucky, Ohio, and Indiana. So just like that, here we are into July 1st, Wednesday, with Independence Day celebrations plans over the weekend. This is Sideshow. I'm Theodore Parker. That's it. Hashtag